Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm really excited to do this with Stephen. I don't know if you guys know Stephen or not, but when did we meet? What was our story? I didn't meet you
Um,
face to face till
till CES.
CES.
Yeah, but we had been talking a lot before that.
Mm-hmm.
I met Ryan probably about a year ago now at his live event, and I was just helping him out. And then I think from there, he had me helping out with the private label in a box because I was understanding the
Right.
data side of what he was doing because I've been selling online for 10 years. So it kind of clicked what he was trying to show. I think from there I started talking, or just mostly asking you questions because you have a much different way of thinking than me. And it was
Right.
very interesting to me, especially the way that you could make very complicated things extremely simple. And I always had a hard time like explaining myself to people. So I definitely started picking your brain from there. And then meeting at CES and then meeting your family and your parents.
Right.
I was like, oh yeah, I'm bought into the Jenny train.
The Jenny train. That's kind of scary. Okay. No, no. Okay. So, in case I don't know, we have a wide spectrum of people that are on this call, and I'm not sure how many of you guys know us from the private label community. But about 3 years ago, I partnered up with Ryan Rieger, and we started. We took his book, Private Label: The Easy Way, and we turned it into a full-blown mentoring program. Really went deep into the content to teach it and to build a course. And so we've been doing that a little bit over 3 years now. And I think we did an auction, and you won the auction for his book, and
Yep.
that kind of jump started you into our community. And but what Stephen is really gifted with, I like what you said. How I mean, we think differently, and I am learning more and more how valuable it is to be on a team, to have community around you, because I don't think the way other people do. And Stephen is the king of research. He gets the research piece, and I just want to close my eyes and stick my fingers in my ears and go because I just don't want to dig into that data. I just don't care about it. I understand the value of it. I totally get that, and I'm bought in on that. I think it's important, but I don't enjoy it at all. And I would rather have someone who enjoys it and loves it kind of come along. So that Stephen has dug deep into that. Him and his brother have a merch group. And he is always testing, researching, testing, proving, researching, testing, modifying, because Amazon's changing things and then starting it over again and doing and applying what they've learned. And it's just amazing, but it's kind of a fast road to be on. It's like a roller coaster ride. And I feel like sometimes I'm just on the ride with him going, wow, wow. So I'm super
Especially the
excited.
way that Amazon changes stuff up. Like if you finally
Yeah,
figure it out, it's only going to work for a week or two, especially on
that's
merch
right.
like that. It changes so.
Kind of like having a baby. So when you have a baby and they're growing, you finally get it figured out, right? And then it's like, yeah, just kidding. Nope, I really want to nap at this time, or you thought you knew when I was going to be hungry, and yeah, no. So Amazon's the same way. I started on eBay. eBay was the same way. It's just the nature of the beast with technology changing, tools changing, and so that's kind of where we are. But we teamed up earlier this year. A couple years ago, I went into well, actually even longer than that. I wrote a book. Something was on my heart just to encourage women. And so started writing, and I ended up putting a book together. It's a devotional for Christmas devotional. And I put it on Kindle. And a year later, I thought, I had learned about this website, Create Space, which is Amazon's platform for self-publishing books. And I thought, I'm going to put it there and actually get a hard copy. So I did that, learned a lot in the process. And then since talking with Stephen and what he's been doing with merch, we've realized, and with my experience, what we've been doing in the private label world, we've realized that we can actually pull all of these principles together and apply them to the book market. Okay. And I think when people understand what we're going to share, if you're not familiar with Create Space and the idea of this, I mean, this picture that I have on the side is a little bit deceiving in my opinion, because these books here look like they're a lot of work to me. And we're going to blow your mind if you haven't heard what we teach yet about how you can use Create Space and the Kindle Direct Publishing program platform to publish books that you don't ever have to write, that don't even have to have text in them, okay? And create a revenue stream from these ideas that take no time, and it's free. My goodness, it's free. So just a bit of a background. CreateSpace is Amazon's self-publishing platform. And the way that it works is basically, in a nutshell, you write something or put something together that's going to be interior pages for a book. You do it in their template. You upload it to their system, choose a cover, create a cover, and then it automatically gets posted into Amazon's catalog as a listing. You don't pay for any of that. That's all a free service. You don't have to apply to get into their program. You don't have to have a limit on the number of books that you can put. As far as we know, we have not hit the ceiling yet. There's no.
I'm testing.
You're testing it, yeah. So it's, if you're familiar with Merch at all, which is their shirt, then sweatshirt and t-shirt print on demand service. Basically, it's the same idea. Only with that, you have to apply. You have to level up. I mean, it's a totally different ball game there. So with this, you don't have to do any of that. So we've taken that, it automatically gets on Amazon's catalog. And then when somebody buys the book, that's when Amazon takes their fees. So they take their fees and then they send you basically a royalty. You set the price. They say it has to be above, $4 or $5, whatever the costs are once you figure out how big your book is. Anything above that you get, and it's pure profit for you. So this is a real easy revenue stream to get going. And we're going to show you how you can, before you invest any resources in putting a book together, how you can be confident that this your idea will likely sell. Because, you could create books on, I could write a book on my neighbor's dogs. And I have no idea if there's an audience already for that. So one of the things that we are passionate about teaching is, don't do the work until you know there's a market for it and you have proven that there's an audience for it. So we've been able to figure out a bit of a system to find that audience very easily, and then move forward on the book side and putting something up. So we're going to I'm hoping we'll kind of just blow you guys away. I'd love to, I'm looking forward to the feedback at the end. And at the same time, know that we are, this is new for us to present. So we are, I'll probably mention this a little bit later too. I've been learning about this concept of sand, clay, and stone. And sand is, things are kind of always fluid. You're able to move with them. Like, so when you're planning, it's not set in stone yet. We know that phrase, it's not set in stone, because when something's set in stone, you can't really change it. The clay is kind of in between. And I would say that Amazon, playing in their sandbox, it's really like sand all the time. You're always modifying how you're doing things. You're always having to work through, and some things stay the same, but usually there are things that you need to modify in order to stay in the game. And so that's kind of what we've learned here, that things we need to be able to change them. So what we're going to share with you right now works. In a month, it might change. And what we're committed to doing is following that and saying, you know what, this doesn't work so much anymore. This is a better way to do this. And we'll come back around and teach that. So we could, and we've talked about putting together kind of a course for this, but by the time a course gets put together and ready to market, this could be outdated. So we want to be able to share it as we're learning it. And that's really the value, I think, of technology today, that we can do that. But understand that here, that this, that's kind of where we're coming from in sharing this information. So why don't we dig in? Anything you want to add?
No, just the fact of, me and Nathaniel did a program for Merch 2 months ago, and it's already outdated. So when you had the idea to do this as a work alongside, I was like, oh, that's awesome. Especially being able to, like you said, sand, clay, stone. I think Amazon is always in a clay sand state. Yeah. Everything that I do is constantly changing because of the platform that I'm selling on is constantly changing. Now, as far as like finding success, that's really why I like to do the data side, because I can constantly be manipulating and tweaking. And unlike Merch, where I feel like it's getting way more competitive, I feel like it's almost the opposite for Kindle and CreateSpace. I feel like that wave came and it kind of left, and it seems to me to be a lot easier to do some validation and launch books. But when you showed me how easy it was to launch books, that's when it was really like, oh, okay. I think I'm really onto something, because the amount of t-shirts that we're launching each day is like 500. And that just seemed,
Crazy.
yeah. But I
Crazy.
can't do that many books in a day, but the ability to launch multiple books in a day when I thought, okay, I need to launch a book. It's going to take me a year to write a book. And then from you showing me how to do it, I was like, yeah, I can
No.
definitely do it. At least one a week pretty easily, if not
Yeah.
more.
And I think we're working on some things to make that even faster.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's pretty insane. Let me just post real quick in the Facebook page. We have a page, guys. I don't know. Actually, Stephen, maybe you can post the link to the page in the chat at the end. But where we have a group and a page, but the page is where we are posting events like this. And I just want to let them know, since there was an event there, that we are going to be having to do the replay. Okay, so the question that I want to start with is, why are we validating? And validating is really, I don't know how many, can I ask you guys in the chat, if you wouldn't mind, where are you at are you a seller on Amazon? Are you like totally new to online selling? I'm just trying to figure out, like, where are you in our private label community? That might help. You might understand this a little bit more or quicker, because we're applying some of the same principles. But would you guys mind just sharing in the chat a little bit of, I guess I need to be more specific with my question. Are you an Amazon seller, and are you in the private label group? Okay, let's see here. So Amazon private label group. Okay. Okay. Cool. Good to know. Okay. All right. I think most of you guys have come from the private label group, and or have you've gotten my book and you've heard me talk about bundling with information. And we'll talk about that a little bit, but really what's cool about that, so bundling with information is having a product, and it could be private label or wholesale or something you buy at Walmart, and bundling it with something like a cookbook or a laminated card or something along those lines. But when we go to create space, and I'm actually going to shift that and start talking about KDP in a minute. But when we go to the self-publishing platform and actually put a physical hard copy, we could end up with 3 listings. We at least get 2. So one is the book that's automatically listed. So what people have found is, oh, look at that. I'm making money on my book, and I just made it to bundle with something, but it's a listing all on its own. And so you get an extra revenue stream from that. You get your bundle listing. Okay. And then maybe you have that product individually as well that you have bundled with the information product. So you could get 3 listings out of that, which is pretty cool. Really quick, I meant to mention this at the beginning. Amazon has now, it used to be all Create Space. That was where they did their hard copy books. Now they have, and KDP, the Kindle Direct Publishing, we all know what a Kindle is, right? Kindle is ebooks, basically. It's a digital version of the books. But on the KDP platform, they now have an option to do soft cover, which is what Create Space does. So what and it's a very simple interface, and the books are the same quality as the Create Space. What we believe is happening, since Amazon seems to be moving in that direction and they've added the soft cover option. This has not been announced by Amazon as far as we know. But what it looks like is happening is Amazon's putting more resources behind what they're doing on the KDP platform. And we have a feeling that the Create Space platform is eventually going to go away. So I have spoken about Create Space. From here on, I'm going to bring in the KDP. So when I'm talking KDP, I'm talking about the hardcover
Soft cover.
option. Soft cover, hard copy option of that they have on KDP. So when you go in there to create a book, it says, do you want to do a Kindle version or do you want to do a soft cover? So you can choose soft cover, and it literally will give you a hard copy book, just like Create Space did. Okay.
And
so
I just want to address the Create Space going into KDP. I think I strongly agree with Jenny, because now features that are coming to KDP are not also coming to Create Space, and they're also pulling away features from Create Space. I think that's why they're going to eventually close it, and then everything will be on KDP, because KDP just got the ability to run pay-per-click ads on their softcover books, and they have no plans on doing that on Create Space.
Yeah, which is a whole nother beast. The whole sponsored ads things. If you guys are in the private label group, you understand how we use sponsored ads to prove private label ideas, you can do the same thing
And get
here.
additional data.
Get
And for
additional
now, you
data.
can do it almost overnight, which is mind-boggling.
That's awesome. Okay, so we'll dig into this a little bit more. But why do we validate? We want to validate ideas on the front end before we invest any resources. It saves us time because at some point we're going to find out and discover whether or not this was a good idea. Okay, and so we might as well figure that out before we've invested anything into it. So that's what we call validating, is what we're doing on the front end. We're validating. We're educating ourselves with some valuable information so we can make an informed decision as to whether or not we want to pursue this. Now, anytime you're selling something, I would hope you validate to a certain level. And we probably do it without even realizing it. When I started selling, it was like 15 years ago, almost 15 and a half years ago, somewhere in there. I started on eBay. And actually, I started selling books on Amazon when Amazon was just books. But before I would list anything, and I was literally going through our bookshelf. I was desperate because I was trying to, we just needed to supplement income, and I had another baby coming. So we literally went through our bookshelf and took books off, and then I would go on Amazon and see what they were selling for. Okay. And if I thought it was worth it, I would list it. That was my layer of validation. I didn't know anything about rank. I don't even know if any of that was around and if it was available to me. I have no idea. I would go in and I would just look and see what it was selling for and decide, is this worth selling? Am I willing to get rid of this book? That was my layer of validation way back when. Then when I got into Amazon to sell FBA, when that program came around, and then went there, I was doing more online, or actually more retail arbitrage. Again, I had layers of validation. I would go through, literally, my kids hate the toy aisles. They're older now, but at the time I have the cure for hitting, so you never have to go to the toy aisles again with your kids, is you
Load
just
up that cart.
spend hours there. And then you buy things that they don't get to keep. It's just great. They love it.
Right now, all these for the parenting tips when I have my
That's
child
a
now.
parenting tip right there. Just take them to the toy store. So I would go through and literally I'd walk through every aisle and I would look for the little sale tags that were on the shelf in front of the items. And I would look for items that already were on sale for at least half the price. That was my first layer of validation. Then I would, if it was on sale for at least half off, then I would look at it and I would scan it. And then I would see what the rank was and what it was selling for on Amazon. And I would make a decision on that information. That's how I would start. I started with retail arbitrage. Those are layers of validation. And it's important because otherwise I would have bought all of these things that I thought would be good sellers or things that I liked. And I never would have taken into consideration whether there was a market for them. Okay. And I would have spent a lot of money, and then I would have spent a lot of time because then I would have been bringing everything back. So we're trying to skip ahead, get through, so we don't have to deal with any of that and validate. That's why it's important to validate on the front end. Okay. But what is validation? And you know what, we're going to skip probably a little bit. What is validation? Google defines it as demonstrating the value of, or to check or prove accuracy, right? So that's really what we're doing. We use the word prove on the back end once we've run sponsored ads. Then it's proven. Validating is kind of a lighter version of proving to me. This was my definition, is to provide increased opportunity for profit on the back end. That is what and why we validate. This was an interesting quote that I found. Between calculated risk and reckless decision-making lies the dividing line between profit and loss. It's reckless. I think it's reckless to go into reckless decision-making. We don't want to do that. We want to find that sweet spot, right? So that we can make money and have our losses be very minimal. I
guess that's another point too of why I like just merch and this type of print on demand so much more, because instead of, like you said, going through the store and buying all those toys, that takes a lot of upfront money. This is another thing to bypass that. You don't have to spend a lot of upfront money, but you do have to spend the time. And if you are going to be spending time to write a book or create a book or whatever, you should validate. Because I always tell people when we help them with merch, like instead of, you have an amazing graphic piece of art to put on a shirt, instead of just balling that up and throwing it out there to see who wants it, why don't you take a few minutes and find out
Right.
what market that might want that shirt, to validate it, and then put the shirt there.
Right. Exactly. Totally worth your time. And we have taken a lot of what Stephen has learned and what we've learned along the way and put it into a very simple system that we're going to share with you. Real quick, in the question, Shauna asked, where do we find out more about KDP? So KDP is the platform where we'll show you a little bit. We'll talk about it more as we go in, but I think it's kdp.amazon.com. Is that the...
Yeah, I just have it bookmarked. I'll have to.
I know, me too. I'm like, oh, there it is. I think it's kdp.amazon.com. We'll put it in the chat.
.com. Yeah, I got it. I'll put it in there.
And it's not related to your Amazon account. It's a totally different account that you set up. KDP basically is replacing how I have talked about Create Space. It's the same thing, only you want to do the soft cover. And let me show you guys. You guys have seen this, I think, most of you. This is, it's a quality book that you get. It's just a soft cover, regular book, you wouldn't even know that it's not a lesser quality than any other publisher. It really isn't. It's the real deal. So let's get into this. And I have no clock on my, okay. Real quick, we're going to validate with the 3 R's. Okay. We've got it down to these 3 R's. Super, super simple, guys. You're going to faint. That's what you're going to faint. I don't know. So the 3 R's are results, rank, and review. Those are the 3 things we're going to look at. It's like a 3-step test kind of a thing. Okay. So the first one is results. So when you're going to start with a search phrase somehow, and we'll do a little bit of a rabbit trail type of a thing in a minute. So you'll see this in action, but what you're doing is when you type in something like, I'm trying to think of an example of a book, let's do cookbook, a keto cookbook. Okay. You type that in and, you're going to get your search results on Amazon, and in the corner, you're going to see how many results. That's what we're talking about. The results we want them to be less than over 2,000 results. And the over 2,000 is Amazon's thing. I'll show you. Here's an example. So here I typed in line a day journal, and the results are showing 1 of 16 of over 2,000 results. You want it to be less than over 2,000 results. Kind of weird, but that's just, we have to use Amazon's verbiage.
Yeah, this is a perfect example of the sand analogy that you gave. My original thing when I was trying to work with Jenny of what we could teach people on, I said anything under 3,000 I've had success with. But after we started working on that, Amazon has changed the way that the results display. Mm-hmm. So now it shows, which sounds really weird, over 2,000. And then if it's over 3,000, it'll say over 3,000. Now, if you go under 1,000, sometimes it actually shows a number, but it is a little confusing, I guess, as I hear you say it. I know. That you try to be over. I know. It just sounds a little odd. But that's why. It's because, Amazon's constantly changing. The rule was anything less than 3,000, but to show you, as it displays right where Jenny has the arrow, it does say over 2,000. You want it to say that or be a lower number.
Be a lower number. There you go. Clear as mud. We're good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is number 1. We're doing results. We want this number here to be less than over 2,000 results. Okay. So here's an example. Bullet Journal has this is 1 of 16 of over 20,000 results. That's too many. That does not pass the results test. Okay. Here's another example. Handwriting book for adults. This is what you were saying. Sometimes if it's under 1,000, it shows an actual number. So this one says there's 321 results. So this would pass. Okay. Does that make sense, guys? Whoops, I just clicked again. I didn't mean to. Just want to make sure this is another one that does not pass. I forget. My chat's in the way, so I can't see it. Journal for Women, Inspiration, something or other. So this one has over 7,000 results. This is too high. It will not pass. It's too competitive. Okay. So the R, less than over 2,000 results. Number 2, it's the rank. We want to look at the rank. And this is super easy, guys. Remember, we're not going to look at a specific listing because what we want to know is there space in this market with this key phrase? Okay. We're not jumping on another listing like you do when you're doing RA or OA and sometimes even wholesale. There's already a listing there and you're jumping on it. We're not doing that. So we aren't looking at a specific listing quality or listing how they're ranking. We want to look at the bigger picture. So the average rank we're looking at is less than 1 million. I know that might sound insane, but books is a completely different ball game than, let's say, than anything.
Private label. Yeah,
Toys
private label.
Or any other category, though, books is a totally different ball game. So average rank, less than 1 million. Less than 2,000 results. Actually, less than 3,000 results is really what it is. I'm sorry, I'm answering Terry. So less than 2,000. It's actually, and you
just typed it in chat. Yeah.
Okay, where's my mouse? There it is. Just don't want to confuse. We want it less than 3,000. That's what we're looking at right now. But the way that Amazon displays it is they either say over 2,000 or over 3,000. So over 3,000 is too many. So the way they display it is it says over 2,000.
Yeah.
So that's why. I think I'm just making it more muddy.
Well, just the way that you say it out loud too, I was like, oh, it makes sense when we write it down. But then when I say less than over, it's
confusing, and I'm sorry for that. But it's Amazon's fault. Amazon, because it's how they display. Okay, so we're back at the rank. So average is less than 1 million, and the way that we're going to look at the average is we're going to use Jungle Scout. Scope does the same thing. It gives you the average for the rank. So here's an example for instructions for something. Oh, for a bad day. Instructions for a bad day. Now look at this. Here's the results. Can you see the cursor? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Okay, so 962 results. So it's under our 3,000. It's under that. And then we're going to run Jungle Scout. And right here on this orange part, okay, and this is the light version, it gives you the average sales rank. We want that to be less than 1 million. So this passes the rank and the results. Okay. My cursor keeps disappearing for me. Okay, so here's another one. This one has, you can see it has 8 results for Journal for a Lost Loved One. So the competition isn't too high. The rank is also going to tell us, so this is 2.5 million, which doesn't pass because it's over 1 million, right? So we're just going to do a quick look at that. Super easy and fast. And we've got 2 out of the 3.
Yeah, I guess that first part is really like if you just want to look at it as a supply and demand kind of test. The results you want lower because there's less competition. And then the million for the whole page, we want to see, is there actually some demand for these types of books? Are these types of books selling? And then this third part is another validation of demand for these books. I guess it's both. It's both supply and demand versus competition to see if somebody else is selling and they've been selling a lot and they have a lot of reviews. It's going to be harder to get your books ranked versus those other books that have high reviews.
Okay, so I'm seeing more questions about the first one. So maybe I'm so sorry.
We'll just switch it to under 3,000, and then as we do it, we'll just point to that and then say, this is what it's going to look like.
Okay, that's good. So yeah, so for results, you want the number to be under 3,000.
Yes.
Okay. What's confusing is the way Amazon displays that it will either say over 3,000,
which is too much,
or it will say over 2,000. And when they say over 2,000, they're saying that's between 2,000 and 3,000, 2,002 and 2,999. Okay. So it's really the problem. What's confusing is the way Amazon displays that the results number. Does that make sense? So you're really
and they might go back to showing the exact results, but for right now, that's how it was. And it's been like that for the last few months. So that's why we had it in the slides like that. But I guess we didn't think about how we were going to say it being confusing.
Well, it's confusing, but I want to make sure that you understand how they're displaying it too. But the number we're looking for is less than 3,000.
Yes.
Okay. So, Let us know in the chat or in the questions if that still is if you have any questions. And don't feel bad. It's confusing. And I'm sorry, it doesn't have to be. It's just once you get it, oh, okay, you know exactly what you're looking for, and it's simple. But it be Amazon muddied it up. Okay, I've lost my cursor again, and I can't see that. There it is. I can see the chat. Okay, perfect. Okay, so so we looked at results. We looked at rank is going to be less than 1 million for the average rank. And now we're going to look at the reviews. And if you're in our private label group, we're using that same reviews test, okay? We're looking at the first 10 listings, and we want to make sure that 3 or 4 of them have less than 50 reviews. Super easy here. We're looking at reviews. Now, I have an extra extension that sits on top of Jungle Scout, which provides this green thing, and it highlights all of the reviews that are under 50 in green, and it also grays out the first 10. So visually, I can see this very quickly. You don't need this extra extension. You just can look at 10 and up here, and you want to just count that 3 or 4 of them have less than 50. That's the last layer of validation for the 3 R's. Super easy. Okay. So guess what? We're going to do this live. So you guys, we'll do it a few times. Where are we at on time? Okay. We'll do this for about 10 minutes, maybe 15, where we'll see how much you guys want to do this. We're going to show you this in action. All right. So I got to stop my share, and I'm going to show you another window here. Maybe.
Are you going to start on Amazon, or are you going to creatively? Okay.
We are not going to start on Amazon. Okay.
I was just thinking, like, I always start on Amazon, but I know you're much more creative than me.
Okay. Can you guys see my Amazon? It's actually Barnes & Noble, my browser. Can you see it, Stephen?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what I like to do, you can start on Amazon. You totally could. But I actually, let's back up a minute. Real quick, with the types of books that we are looking at, we had said that that first slide, it had all of these books that they looked like
with words in them.
They had words in them. Oh my gosh, a book with words in them. How awful is that? No, so they did. They had a lot of words in them, and that to me looks like a lot of work, and I don't want to write a book. Maybe I do, but I don't want to write a book. I want to sell books, but I don't want to sell books that are already existing. How can I have a unique listing without having to write a book? So here's the deal, guys. Super, super trendy right now is journals. Journals are so trendy and so popular. And I want you to think about that for a minute. You can take a book. You can write a book that's a journal that doesn't have any words in it. It just has lines in it. Or you could put an inspirational quote in there with lines. You could do lots of different things with a journal. And if you go to a store like Barnes & Noble, just go there and look at their journals. They have all kinds. They don't, and some of them are leather bound and all of that. You're not going to get that here. It's just not. But not all of them are. Some of them are challenge journals where they're like almost more like a workbook. Okay. Some of them are like a diary or a log, and some of them are like a workbook. Now, the power of this is incredible. So what we are teaching is take this idea of, and I have a list, journals, workbooks, logs, things that have tracking. Okay, what are people tracking? Recipes, self-help, quotes, a guide for something. Those are all, that's 9 right there, I think. 8 or 9 things that I just listed off. None of those really require a lot of words. The cookbook, yes, but you can actually purchase rights to recipes, or you can do your own family recipes. So you still do not have to, you don't have to come up with the recipes yourself necessarily. Okay. But the journals, the easiest one. I mean, it's crazy. And in fact, you're doing journals, Stephen, where the inside's all the same. You're putting a different title and cover on the outside to hit different markets. Okay. The internal pages are all the same, identical. Create once and you're done. It's the covers that are changing, the titles that are changing based on keyword research that pass the 3 R's and maybe a little more validation. I don't know. But
yeah, and I guess I do want to say I change up the insides just a touch. Like whatever my title is, I do have like a title page. So it's like the first few pages, but I'm not changing the whole book. So yes, it is very quick to knock these out.
Crazy. Yeah. And so what to do is where I like to start is thinking, okay, journals, workbooks, logs, tracking, recipe books, self-help, quotes, and a guide for. I like to think, okay, my starting place is what audiences use those types of products. That's my customer base. Okay. So I took Stephen and Ryan when we were in LA last October for a workshop. I took them and we were all so tired. I'm like, you've got to go to Barnes and Noble with me. I have to show you this. And we went there and they're like dragging. I think maybe it was just Ryan that was dragging. I don't know. But we were there.
No, I was checked out. I was exhausted. Okay. I just flew all the way from Florida. I was like, I don't want to do this. But when I went, I had such a blast. It was so.
I know. We were there for like an hour, and we found at least 50 ideas of books that fall in these categories. Okay, this is a huge untapped market, I think, and or maybe it's tapped but not on Amazon with the Create Space and KDP. So pretty cool. So basically we want to ask what audiences are using these types of products. And I just did a quick brainstorm. And if you guys think of some, I'd love to hear feedback in the chat. Home crafters. So they do it yourself. That's another thing, like instructions for something. Now, if you've ever been on a rabbit trail call with Ryan and I, these are prompts, guys. Instructions for, and let Amazon tell you, what are people searching for instructions for? Something. What are they looking for? And see what comes up, and then run it through the 3 R's. So home crafters, though, is one. Coaching, people who do coaching, any kind, like a counselor or a business coach, a life coach, any kind of therapist. Those are all people who might be interested. You could even whole nother model. You could go to a therapy, a life coach or whatever, and you could say, hey, you have an audience. I know how to do this. I'll do this for you for free. They just have to buy the book on Amazon and your name's on it and it's branding advertising for you.
Now you're stepping on my toes.
I know. So, sorry.
That's what we're out doing.
With books?
Yep.
Awesome.
Along with shirts.
So then you're going to the audience itself. But education, anybody who's a teacher, teaching something, a fitness coach, a trainer, people who are doing self-help, those are all people who use
gardening.
Types of products.
Well, they said planting, but gardening is another good one.
Yes. So that would be an education, right? Education thing. So showing how to do something. And if you're skilled in that, you could write it if you want to, but you can hire somebody. You could probably find PLR, which is a whole nother workshop to talk about that, private label rights. So that's really what we're looking for. So what I like to do is go to Barnes & Noble online and kind of recreate what we did when we went to the store and look and see what are the best sellers or look for inspiration this way. You could start with Amazon, but I just think this is fun and wanted to show this to you guys. So here's the Barnes & Noble website. I go to books, and then I would scroll down under subjects and do browse all.
You should do this at CES. Take people out to Borders.
I want to do it in LA. So we're going to be in LA at the end of June for a workshop, and I'm going to take a group to do this for sure.
Because I was just thinking that was so eye-opening to me. I know a lot of other people would get stuff out of that.
Okay.
Sorry.
So
I didn't mean to sidetrack you.
No, you're good. I can see your wheels turning. You can do pictures. I have a friend, Terry, just so you know, you are posting, I don't know if you're doing it on purpose, to just Stephen and I, where it says to all panelists. You can change that so it says all panelists and attendees, and then other people can see your question too. Can digital pictures be put in these books and just sell it as an ebook? Okay. So here's the deal. You can totally do this with ebooks, but let me just say, you will not make the same kind of money you will make with a hard copy book. If you're bundling, do not bundle with an ebook. You're doing all this work. Why not just upload it into KDP and have a soft cover book there, right?
And I would be cautious of, like, if you're going to almost do journals, to not do it on KDP, because I was testing that, and the expectations that people were getting, like something that they could write on, and because of certain Kindles, you can and cannot write on them, it gave me a lot of bad reviews. So that's why I stay away from that for right now until I find another way to go about that.
Well, and with KDP, they make it really easy to link your Create Space says they do this too, but I'm just going to caution you. I have linked my books with my Kindle version and lost my hard copy version and ability to edit it, to do anything. It doesn't show up anymore. It is on the catalog, on Amazon's catalog, so people can buy it, but I can't change the price. I can't do anything with it with the hard copy. There was some sort of thing that it got lost. With KDP, if you do the soft cover there, you can automatically generate a Kindle version, and it just works better together.
It's
So
easier to track it.
if
It's
it,
easier
yep,
to
and
find it, edit it,
if it's not a journal or something where people would write in it, something interactive that way, if it's just a how-to or a self-help, that type of a thing, then yes, why not do the Kindle version? That's not extra work. I just wouldn't only do an ebook. I think, especially if you're looking to do this for bundling for private label or something along those lines, you want a hard copy, because what happens, guys, is you will increase the perceived value of your bundle. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Let's move on. The June event is the last weekend in June. If you're in the private label group, I think we said
that's when you're launching 3.0.
We're launching private label 3.0. So I'll be touching on this there, but this won't be the focus of it. It'll be private label. There's an event in the private label group. Jim Cochran will be announcing it soon. We're doing it with him. So,
do we spill the beans? Is it not?
No, you're good.
No,
save the date. It's just that it's not, the sales page isn't up yet and all that.
Oh, okay.
So here we're going to go to crafts and hobbies. Okay, that's where I'm going to. No, that's not what I want to do. I want to go to cookbooks. We could go to crafts and hobbies, but I already have this set up. So maybe if we want to, we can do that after. And I look at the nonfiction section, and I kind of go through activities and game books. Awesome. Mad Libs, that's probably trademarked, but that type of an idea. Go through here, get some inspiration. A lot of these, but we're going to go to cookbooks.
Yeah, I'm starting to play around with a lot of those activity books.
Yeah, and they're things, what's cool about this is it's things you don't even think of. And in our, one of the insiders, we have an insiders group, and we'll show you how you can be a part of it at the end. But in that group, I'm posting weekly inspiration of books that we found at Barnes & Noble, actually from that trip. And, okay, what can we do with this inspiration, right? So I'm going to go to, I'm going to make this a little bigger. You can see the whole page. I'm curious here about this bestsellers thing. So that's where I want to focus a little bit once it starts loading. There we go. And where can I see there? See all. That's what I want to do. So the reason I'm going to bestsellers, I'm kind of adding an extra layer of validation here, right? These are things Barnes & Noble customers are searching for. So perhaps that crosses over and Amazon, and we might be able to find some ideas here. So I am just going to browse through. I had already found something just to show you as an example.
Funny, as you scroll through these, I've sold a good amount of these before when I was selling books.
I'm going to go to page 2.
So in your mind, what are you thinking as you're scrolling through this?
Well, so I would just look and go, okay, could I write a book? How easy would it be? This is super trendy, this idea. I don't think it would pass our 3 Rs. It might. So I could probably find some PLR recipes to put in here, but I don't really want to get onto that kind of a trend. So I'm just looking for something that maybe is less trendy. Any of these you could probably dig into a little bit, but of course it's not going to show up now. The one that I had found, it was pretty cool. It was on page 2. See, there we go. It changes so fast. Well, it was a muffin cookbook that I had found. Maybe I passed it and didn't see it. It was on page 2. The Great British Bake Off. I mean, so you could do something all on baking, bread, gluten-free bread baking. The Instant Pots are really popular. So something with Instant Pot recipes if you wanted to do recipes. I'm going to go back a page.
I was just thinking, there's probably a lot of cookbooks that have private labels almost directly attached to them.
Exactly. And that's what one thing that this can do is inspire.
When I bought my cast iron, I would have definitely bought a cookbook with my cast iron.
Yep. I'm just looking at this again because there was the muffin book. Well, I'm not going to get stuck on here. You guys,
so if we start on baking, can we go down from baking?
You could. So, but what happened was, I don't know why it's not showing up, but I'm not going to sit here doing this. You could do this with any of them and we can come back and do that. But I wanted to show you the process that works. There was a muffin cookbook called Do You Know the Muffin Pan?
Oh.
Which was an awesome name. I love it. And so I thought, okay, do I know the muffin pan? It's a muffin cookbook. Everything in it is muffins. Let's go to Amazon and run the 3 R's. So I typed in muffin cookbook. And actually, if you go back and you watch us, you see what we've done on the rabbit trail calls. As you're typing, what happens is Amazon is saying, oh, I think they're going to type this. I just typed in muff. And there's apparently a muff tape measure that people search for. These are things that customers who come to Amazon are typing in, and Amazon is assuming based on customer data that you want to type in these things too. So it's guessing. I went muffin, and I'm looking for a cookbook, which I don't see one here, but there it goes. So as I keep typing, muffin cookbook. So if I do muffin cookbook, you could even hit vegan or the keto muffin. I mean, you could go deeper and get trendy if you wanted to, but we're going to look here. Okay. First, we're looking at results. 1 of 16 of over 1,000 results. So it's got under 3,000. That's our gauge, right? Passes the results test. Now we're going to look at the rank. So I'm going to use this Jungle Scout Chrome extension. I think I have too many things running.
I know whenever I do these, I have a switcher program so I can turn off all my tools because it's maddening the amount of tools that I have.
Okay, so look at this, guys. The average rank is under 500,000. We want to make sure it's under 1 million. So that passes the rank. And then the reviews. Look at that. So we've got 7 out of 10 that have under 50. So Muffin Cookbook passes our 3R test. All right.
And I just want to address this too. We're looking for the full page for the average sales rank because we want to know, is there enough demand on the full page?
On the page.
And then we want to look at the top 10 for reviews to see, okay, if we are going to compete in this space and we want to be in the top 10, what are our competitors looking like? Is there space for us to compete inside that top 10? So I would say for sure this one we can compete because a lot of those books have under 50 reviews.
Yes, I'm responding to a question. Emily, I see your question. I'll respond to that before we get done. I'll just do it live. So you're asking what happens if you have books in Create Space already, what's going to happen? I don't know because this has not been announced by Amazon. But what we would say is from now on, I would create new books in KDP.
And they do have that process where you can push them over, but we are advising to not do that yet because that process is not smooth. And I have, like Jenny, had bad experiences moving from one Create Space over to KDP. So because they're doing that process is another indicator to me that that is going to be what happens.
Right.
But they're not forcing anybody to do anything. They're allowing you to do it. But we are suggesting to not do that yet.
Wait until they force it or they make an announcement.
It loses your book in transit, or like Jenny, it has the book, but you can't access it.
Right.
Things like that we've seen by helping more people.
No, okay. So Emily's saying, so did she hear correctly that you can't write well in the KDP pages and that you don't do journals there? Okay, KDP has 2 parts. It says it's Kindle Direct Publishing, and it started as just being able to publish on Kindle. But what they've added is now you can publish a soft cover book. So what you can do on CreateSpace, now you can do directly on the KDP interface. It's just the interface.
To me, it's a way simpler.
And it's very simple, yes. So we're suggesting if you're going to do a journal or something where they write on it, don't do the digital version on KDP. Do the soft cover version on KDP.
On KDP, yes. And as you're creating it, you can click what you want to create. And so I always just click soft cover.
Okay. So let's do another one. We're getting really close on time, and I'm going to have to get off. So let's play with this. Let's do one more, and we don't have to go to Barnes and Noble, but we can just type in. Do you have some inspiration? Well, I was
going to say baking, because I always like to see you niche down inside baking, and you can even do baking cookbook and see if that passes, and then show them how to niche down. Because I always enjoy.
Okay. Well, here's the thing too, really quick with Muffin Cookbook. So if you're doing private label, what could you bundle this with, guys? Put it in the chat.
I got 5 off the top of my head.
Yep, a muffin pan, right? A muffin pan. So you could go and say, okay, does a muffin...
Or your own muffin mix.
Your own muffin mix, that might be... Or you could look at all this. Muffin paper liners, right?
Measuring cups.
Yep, all of these things. I'm not going to go through this and see if any of these pass because that's not the focus of this call and we're running out of time. But let's look for another book idea or a journal. So one thing you could do is we could do instructions for, there's your prompt, hit the space bar, and let's see, instructions for a heat wave. I don't know what that is. I didn't do this one ahead of time.
Happiness and success.
Oh, there you go. For your various situations. Okay. Instructions for happiness and success. Look at the results. This might be not enough demand, but we'll see. 156 results, okay? If this passes, this would be sweet.
These are the ones I like to look for.
Okay.
Especially when I'm helping people. Because it's low competition.
Yep, we'll see. It looks like it will. Maybe, yep. Nope.
Mm-mm.
Rank's too high. You'll never sell it. You might sell one in a year, but we're looking for faster sales than that. Okay, so instructions for is a good prompt. You could do the word journal. I love this one. Journals to write in for women. I got to do it. I don't remember what. Oh, look at that. Nope, too many for that key phrase. So journal, didn't pass our first part. We could put the cursor in front and see, okay, this is kind of interesting. I'm curious. So Wreck This Journal is a brand, okay? I taught a class of teens on how to do a journal, and they wanted to do something like this. So they actually have one right here. They did one. It was called the Messy Journal. Is it backwards? And basically came up with, they designed all of these and like build a sandcastle on this page. So all of the pages, they're this one, find your super villain name.
Ooh, I like that.
Just different challenges that they came up with. And this is your new singing companion. Bring this into the shower with you. Okay. So it's the same idea as this Wreck This Journal. And we didn't have the 3 R's at the time, but let's see. So this is 190 results. I think this might be too tight, but I don't know. It might be okay. I'm kind of looking at the
Would be another way to look at that, journal prompts.
Oh, type in journal prompts. Well, look at this. But look at this. So average rank is less than 300,000, but look at the reviews. It's too competitive. They're all, look, she's like killing it. Okay, so yeah. So what's another way we could do that? Journal
prompts, is that how you would consider that?
Oh, look at that. Maybe. Prompts for teens.
women.
Well, that's interesting. Yep, that might be better. So we've got 191 results. It's different books. They're not all the same. This might work. Let's see. Look at that. Journal prompts for teens. This one's sweet. 191 results. Less than 300,000. We're looking at less than 1 million for the average rank. And we want to see at least 3 or 4 in the reviews with less than 50 reviews. Okay, so really you could just rabbit trail it. We could even go into one of these. I think I clicked on something that I didn't mean to.
Father's Day's gifts?
I hit something. So we know these record journals are really duct tape edition. That's funny. I bet people are buying. I was going to say, what are people buying with this? You can go down in here for more inspiration. What do they buy after their more Wreck the Journal things? You could look in here and see scribble doodles, word searches. You can get coloring books for adults, get those tightly niched down. Those are all inspiration. And you just run those 3 R's, guys. My computer's kind of having issues.
I'm very excited about this because the way that I go about doing this is very different. And it's more data driven. But I think we stumble across the same things, just come at it from a different point.
Right.
So I think when I'm trying to teach people, they're more like you, creative. And I can't show them that. Like I would never start on Barnes & Noble to go back to Amazon. That just seems like my brain doesn't function like that. but to be able to help people on multiple different levels. I think that's why I enjoy working with you so much, because when I am like Abe and I'm like off on this crazy data rant, you can just go, or it's just like this. And then you say it in 2 words and I go, okay, I don't know how I couldn't just say it that way. You make everything so much simpler and
So,
fun. I think I make it very like dry.
no,
Way.
you know what? We need all the pieces. And that's what it all works best together. So, Michael's asking, is there a way to run sponsored ads? Let me, there is on KDP. They allow you to do that. So you would apply the
They just
KPI.
opened it up like probably a month ago now. I've been testing that.
Okay. I have lost my cursor. There it is. So I wanted to share with you guys really quick, and we'll get to any more questions that you have. Stephen and I are doing a 4-week training. We're calling it real-time training because honestly, like what we said, this is like sand and clay. That's where Amazon is, and things are changing so quickly. I think there's a lot of value to watching us work through this process, and you will learn as we're learning too. We're further down the road. We're applying this and testing it, and we'd love to share that with you and have you kind of look over our shoulders. And so that's really what this is about. We're going to do real-time training. And it's going to be 4 sessions starting in June. I think that's next month. We're going to start Wednesday, June 6th. And here's what we're going to be going over, okay? Week 1, we're going to be doing discovery. We're going to talk about bundling, which I touched on a little bit. Like you could do the muffin pan with the muffin cookbook. And what does that look like? We're going to talk about individual books and how strategies to get these individual books selling on their own. And remember, guys, what's so cool, there is no cost. There's no cost to get this Amazon listing up there. You only pay once the book, you don't even pay. Once the book has sold, Amazon takes their part and you just get money deposited into your account. So that's super cool. And then we're going to also talk about partnering, which I touched on briefly about, going and finding a life coach or someone who has an audience, who's a gatekeeper to those audiences and partnering with them. So we'll touch on that. That's week 1. Week 2 will be on Wednesday, June 13th. We're going to talk about setting up your internal pages, setting up your cover, and then also outsourcing so you can automate the process. Week 3, we're going to talk about submitting it to KDP and to Amazon, and also setting up ads, building momentum with it, okay? And then on week 4, we're going to go deep into just troubleshooting, sifting through what have we learned, what kind of data have we gotten back, and then repeating and modifying and repeating actually is probably a better thing there. So 4 weeks, we're going to dig deep starting June 6th. These will all be recorded, but only those people who who sign up are going to get into it. Honestly, guys, this is 4 weeks, an hour and a half for each call, a lot of our time, a lot of coaching, a lot of hand-holding, a lot of revealing the process. Seriously, I've done these before, well over $500 value, but we really want to get as many people moving in this direction and be successful with this as possible. That's our goal. We want to walk with you. So really, this comes down to $25 a call for an hour and a half, and you get your questions answered and really get to build momentum with this revenue stream. Okay. So there's the link. I don't know, maybe you could put it on the chat for me. So it's jennyhunt.com/realtime.html. And I didn't mean to go back. I wanted to leave it up for a little bit in case you wanted to write it down, because you can't click on your screen there. Let's see here. Can you talk about, love to answer your questions, guys. Can you talk about how to create the actual content after you find a valid topic? It is so easy. Yes, we will talk about that. If you are in, as a bonus to this, we have a Create Space Insiders, Create Space KDP. It's really creative publishing insiders group, Facebook group. And as a part of this class, you'll have access to that. There's about 130 people in there. And we did a workshop. If you're in the private label group, yeah, I don't think you might be able to get the replay on the workshop, but it's all, that training is all inside the insiders. You will have access to that group and any future training that we do as well. So we will talk about how to create actual content in this 4-week session. It's really easy. We have some tools that we are hoping to announce soon that will help. It's very close. That will help. And all of that will be something that you'll learn more about as we go if you're a part of this. Let's see, a couple questions. Nope.
Yeah, and troubleshooting too, because there are not always, but when I was setting everything up, it took me 2 weeks. Like the formatting side of it was kind of a nightmare for me, because I never wrote a book, so I never had to do any of those. And I was trying to push it from Word. I used a lot of different other programs, and it was just very difficult because they don't tell you exactly all the time what's wrong with it. So sizing sometimes, the bleed sometimes, and then even picking bleed versus non-bleed, a lot of that stuff. So having that group to be able to ask those questions in is invaluable, especially even to me when I go, okay, this for some reason is not working now, or when I'm testing what we're trying to do now and being able to run that back and forth, especially just even asking Jenny, okay, it's saying this, it's showing a red here, but I don't quite understand what this is saying. What does that mean?
Yeah. So here's the thing that I also want to emphasize. The upfront costs for this, for KDP, for doing books like this is zero. Okay. You can do this yourself. It's not hard, and you can outsource it as well. The templates that are available in KDP for covers, you don't have to create it yourself. If you were doing it all yourself, because everybody's in a different place. So if you don't want to spend any money, you just want to get some out, validate an idea with the 3 R's, and then you can go into Word, and I actually have a template in, and if you join on this, you'll have access to it. A template in the insiders group of a Word document that's all lines. That's all you need, is all lines. You could get somebody on Fiverr to do that for you for $5 too. So just a Word document with all lines for a journal. So you want to space it, appropriately. And then you just upload that into KDP, choose a cover. The key is your keywords, so that it comes up and that it passes the 3 R's. So I'm telling you, there's no, okay, so maybe you're selling 3 a week, maybe you're selling 100 a week, maybe you're selling, I don't know what your gauge is, but the thing is, there's no investment on the front end. There's no investment. So there's a lot of room for training, testing, but this does work. And what I love about the strategy is it's so easy to get into. It's like merch. Merch is easy to get into and to start selling shirts as well. But what's not easy with merch is that you have to apply, and then you have to level up. So the recording for this call, what we're doing right now, is going to be available on the, I'm going to find the link. You posted it in the chat. Here it is. This Facebook page. Facebook.com/createspace_KDP. It's a Facebook page that we put, and we were going to broadcast live in there, and apparently that didn't happen. So I'll post the recording in there. If you're in the private label group, we will be doing this same presentation with in there on Tuesday. That has yet to be announced, but that's going to be happening. So I'd love to have you on there if you have more questions. But I think for now, awesome, Brenda. Okay, I think we're good. Are there any questions I missed?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think you answered them all. And you answered those questions as you were doing it. I don't know how you can read chat and the questions and do the presentation at the same time. That seems...
It's a gift.
Yeah. That's why I'm so glad I do that with Nathaniel, because he's the one doing the same thing like you. He's reading the chat and the questions. I for some reason, my brain, like I can't speak and read, I think, at the same time.
Yeah, you know what? There's times when, I feel like a mess inside, like, but that's all right. Anyway, all right, I'm going to stop recording.